On the topic of the Murray-Darling Basin, Ricky Lambert from our Flow News 24 team has been following through a number of issues that relate to the deadline 2024 of the Basin Plan being met. He joins me now. Hi, Ricky. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks, Wayne.
Good to see you on this Monday morning. Bright and early. You were in the studio. I saw you when I came in to begin my shift. You were at it with this water plan. And I know that one of the big issues that you've been looking at is about these water recoveries, the buybacks, but also how that compares with the building of infrastructure and what the relevant positions are for each of the political persuasions, whether it be at a federal level or state level. Just explain to us that the two different positions are either building infrastructure to save water or buying back water from the basin, from farms, to give to the environment.
So the overall target in the plan is 2,750 gigalitres, and then there's an additional 450 gigalitres that's meant to be reached through efficiency measures. In other words, finding ways to stop wasting water and make the water delivery to farmers more efficient, which might be through closing in channels and replacing them with pipes. It might be on-farm efficiency measures. So the federal government's position is they will only pursue off-farm efficiency measures, which is like those closing in of channels, for instance, and they're not going to do on-farm efficiency measures, and they're not going to buy back water from farms. They're not going to buy water licences and just let that water flow down the river anymore. Whereas the policy position of, say, the New South Wales Labor Party is that buybacks should be an option, and they claim farmers want to be able to sell their water, which we know from places like the Riverina has wreaked incredible damage on their local industry because so many farmers sold their water. The economy has shrunk to a significant degree.
Where does federal Labor stand on this? I know that we've had some discussion with Terry Butler, who is the shadow spokesperson for the MDB, and here's what Terry had to say.
I think people are rightly asking the question of, well, where is the water going to come from? How is the water going to be delivered? And all Australians would be asking the question, how is it going to be delivered in a way that provides value for money? Now, these are questions for the government. The government is now in its 8th year in office. They've had the stewardship of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan now for so many years, and yet they're heading towards the end date of the plan, sort of shrugging their shoulders, looking around and hoping that someone else fixes it for them.
So Terry Butler is non-committal, but at the state level, Victorian Labor has a fairly obvious position on the Murray-Darling Basin.
Yeah, that's correct. So what Terry Butler has said there is they're trying to put pressure on the government as an opposition, but in the broader interview you'll hear on Flow News 24 podcast, she dodged the question about whether they support buybacks, whether they support extension of time on the plan. But the Victorian Labor government has said to us that their position is that there should be more flexibility around the 2024 deadline for delivery of environmental projects under the Basin Plan. Now, flexibility, when you look at what the coalition federal government have said, they are not going to do buybacks or on-farm recovery. That's the opposite of flexibility. That's saying we're rigidly only going to pursue off-farm efficiency. So what the Victorian Labor government have told us is they want that flexibility, which means keeping buyback on the table.
Keeping buybacks on the table, which I think is the plan for the shadow federal position for Labor, but surely they have a position. I mean, Terry Butler is saying at the moment that they're not going to tell us until they announce their policy before the next election. But isn't it in the context of how important this has been, and we've been in this particular place for the last, 15 years since the Basin Plan began, surely there is a position that Labor has put previously?
Well, first of all, it's the state Labor in New South Wales who have said buybacks should be an option in any market-based approach. Federal Labor right now are saying they don't have a policy supporting buybacks. We know from Penny Wong's time as Water Minister they were very much in favour of buybacks, and Labor wants the plan delivered on time. Terry Butler's answer to me today on that topic was, well, we've still got 3 years. We want to see how they're tracking on these efficiency projects. They're actually quite happy to let the government squirm on this and basically fail, because I think, frankly, that is a political position. It's not a practical position when you look at the basin and the need for certainty, like irrigators have been telling us. we can't afford to have a political game played over the basin and running short of the targets. If it's quite clear to everyone, including an expert panel that Terry Butler mentioned today, if it's clear to them that we're not going to reach those targets, we should be addressing what we do about that now rather than running to a catastrophic failure to reach those targets in 2024.
The pressure on the federal government to reach targets, which clearly they're not going to reach. We've even talked about that last week on this program about the farmers along the tributaries who don't want to sign up to being flooded, if you like, by this plan. The current plan would see them, if they moved towards it, they would have to sign up to being flooded on property more often, and they won't sign up to that because they say they lose arable farmland and that's valuable and so on. So we've got a number of issues with the current basin plan where farmers aren't going to sign up to it. They're not also looking to have more water go to the environment because, as we've seen in Riverina, New South Wales, that position has caused a catastrophic position on rice growers. So again, we look to the federal government for what they have to say on this, and we're going to bring that to you this week as Ricky Lambert tracks it here on Flow News 24. Thanks for joining us, Ricky.
Thank you, Wayne.